In the early evening of January 19, 1931, William Herbert Wallace, an insurance agent living in Liverpool, received a phone call that would forever alter his life. The caller, identifying himself as R.M. Qualtrough, requested Wallace's presence the following night at 25 Menlove Gardens East to discuss a potential insurance policy. Wallace, eager to secure a new client, agreed to the meeting without hesitation. However, upon arriving at the specified address, Wallace discovered that no such place existed. The mysterious phone call set off a chain of events that would lead to one of Britain's most baffling murder cases. Who made the call? What was their motive? These questions form the crux of the enigma surrounding the murder of Julia Wallace. As we delve deeper into this perplexing case, the phone call remains a pivotal moment, an initial spark that ignited a complex and bewildering mystery. Stay tuned as we unravel the details and explore the myriad theories that have emerged over the decades. Now, let's dive into the heart of the case and examine the crime that shocked Britain to its core. Upon returning home from his futile search for R.M. Qualtrough, William Herbert Wallace was met with a sight that would haunt him for the rest of his life. The front door was locked, and he struggled to gain entry. When he finally managed to get inside, he was greeted by an eerie silence that filled the air with a palpable sense of dread. As Wallace made his way through the dimly lit house, he called out for his wife, Julia, but received no response. His heart raced as he ventured further into the home, his footsteps echoing ominously. It was in the sitting room that he found her. Julia Wallace lay in a pool of her own blood, brutally murdered. The scene was gruesome. Julia had been struck multiple times with a blunt instrument, her skull shattered from the force of the blows. Blood spattered the walls and furniture, painting a horrifying picture of violence. The weapon, a heavy iron bar, was found nearby, adding a chilling detail to the already macabre discovery. But there were oddities that puzzled investigators. Despite the brutal attack, there were no signs of a struggle. Julia appeared to have been taken by surprise, suggesting she knew her assailant. Furthermore, nothing of significant value was missing from the home, ruling out robbery as a motive. Wallace's behavior upon discovering his wife's body also raised eyebrows. He was described as being strangely calm and composed, which some interpreted as shock, while others saw it as suspicious. His alibi, created by the mysterious phone call, seemed almost too convenient. These inconsistencies and peculiarities deepened the mystery. Who could have committed such a heinous act, and why? The crime scene, with all its brutal and bewildering details, became the cornerstone of an investigation that would perplex detectives and the public alike for decades to come. Now, let's delve further into the investigation and the theories that have emerged over the years as we continue to explore the unsolved mystery of Julia Wallace's murder. As the investigation into Julia Wallace's murder unfolded, one aspect stood out as both a pillar of defense and a glaring point of suspicion: the alibi. On the night of the murder, William Herbert Wallace had been sent on an errand by a mysterious phone call, supposedly from a man named R.M. Qualtrough. This call had come through at the chess club where Wallace was a regular, instructing him to visit a fictitious address. The timing of this call and Wallace's subsequent journey formed the backbone of his alibi. Investigators initially found Wallace's account of the evening credible. Witnesses at the chess club confirmed the call, and several people reported seeing him as he traveled to and from the non-existent address. His whereabouts seemed thoroughly accounted for, making it nearly impossible for him to have committed the murder within the narrow window of time. However, as detectives delved deeper, cracks began to appear in Wallace's seemingly airtight defense. The timing of his journey was re-examined, and some experts argued that it was feasible for Wallace to have staged the crime and still been seen in public. The phone call itself became a point of contention. Could Wallace have orchestrated it to create an elaborate cover story? Moreover, Wallace's behavior on the night of the murder raised further suspicions. His calm demeanor upon discovering his wife's brutalized body struck many as unnatural. Was it the shock that rendered him composed, or was it a sign of premeditation? The timeline of events was scrutinized down to the minute. Each witness statement was analyzed for discrepancies. Some believed Wallace had manipulated the sequence of events to fit his narrative, while others insisted the timeline exonerated him beyond doubt. The alibi, initially a shield of innocence, became a double-edged sword. It protected Wallace, but also ensnared him in a web of doubt and speculation. As we continue to unravel the layers of this perplexing case, we must ask ourselves, was William Herbert Wallace a victim of circumstantial evidence and coincidence, or a cunning mastermind who executed the perfect crime? Join us as we delve deeper into the investigation and explore the theories that have emerged over the years in our ongoing quest to uncover the truth behind the murder of Julia Wallace. The murder of Julia Wallace was not just a crime, it was a puzzle that left investigators grasping at straws. When the police arrived at the Wallace home, they were immediately faced with the brutal reality of the crime. Julia's body lay in a pool of blood, and the scene was chaotic. But in 1931, forensic science was in its infancy, and the tools available to detectives were rudimentary at best. The initial investigation was a race against time, with detectives combing through the Wallace residence for any clues that could lead to the murderer. Fingerprint analysis was limited, and DNA testing was decades away. The crime scene offered little in the way of concrete evidence, making the task of piecing together the events of that fateful night incredibly challenging. Witness testimonies became the cornerstone of the investigation. Neighbors reported hearing strange noises, and some even claimed to have seen suspicious figures near the Wallace home. Yet, these accounts were inconsistent and, at times, contradictory. The police were left with a tangled web of statements that only added to the confusion. Amidst the chaos, one name kept resurfacing: William Herbert Wallace. His alibi, initially seen as unassailable, began to crumble under scrutiny. Detectives questioned his every move, dissecting his journey to the fictitious address and his behavior upon discovering his wife's body. Wallace's calm demeanor was seen by some as a sign of guilt, while others argued it was a natural response to shock. But was Wallace the only suspect? Theories about other potential perpetrators began to circulate. Some speculated that a burglar had been interrupted by Julia, leading to the violent attack. Others suggested a personal vendetta, perhaps someone from Wallace's past. Each theory added another layer of complexity to an already convoluted case. The investigation was marred by the limitations of the era, but also by the very human elements of bias and conjecture. Detectives were under immense pressure to solve the case, and the evidence, or lack thereof, pushed them towards the most obvious suspect. Yet the deeper they dug, the more elusive the truth became. As we continue to peel back the layers of this baffling case, the question remains: was William Herbert Wallace a wronged man ensnared by circumstantial evidence, or a cunning killer who outsmarted the authorities? Join us as we delve further into the investigation and explore the myriad theories that have kept this case alive for decades. In our quest for answers, we aim to shed light on a mystery that has haunted Britain for nearly a century. The arrest of William Herbert Wallace sent shockwaves through the community. Known as a mild-mannered insurance agent, Wallace was now at the center of one of the most sensational murder trials in British history. The evidence against him was largely circumstantial, yet the prosecution was confident in their case. During the trial, the courtroom was filled with an air of tension and anticipation. The prosecution laid out a compelling narrative. Wallace, they argued, had orchestrated an elaborate ruse to create an alibi. The mysterious phone call, the wild goose chase, and his calm demeanor upon discovering Julia's body all pointed to a calculated plan to evade suspicion. The defense, however, painted a different picture. They highlighted the lack of concrete evidence linking Wallace directly to the crime. No fingerprints, no murder weapon, and no clear motive. They argued that the prosecution's case was built on conjecture, and that Wallace was an innocent man caught in a web of circumstantial evidence. The jury was faced with a daunting task. After intense deliberation, they returned a guilty verdict, and Wallace was sentenced to death. The public was divided. Some believed justice had been served, while others felt an innocent man was being punished for a crime he did not commit. But the story did not end there. Wallace's conviction was later overturned on appeal, making it one of the first cases in British history to be reversed due to insufficient evidence. The appellate court found that the evidence presented at trial was not enough to prove Wallace's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. The reversal sparked a heated debate about the justice system and the nature of circumstantial evidence. It also left the case open, with no clear resolution. To this day, the trial of William Herbert Wallace remains a controversial and pivotal moment in legal history, raising questions about the balance between justice and doubt. As we move forward, we continue to explore the complexities of this case, seeking to understand the true nature of the events that transpired on that fateful night. The trial may have ended, but the mystery endures, leaving us to ponder. Was justice truly served, or did the real killer walk free? Join us as we delve into the next chapter, where we examine the lingering questions and theories that have kept the murder of Julia Wallace an enduring enigma. The trial of William Herbert Wallace may have ended, but the enigma surrounding Julia Wallace's murder persists. In this chapter, we delve into the theories and suspects that have kept the case alive in the public imagination, each adding a layer of complexity to an already intricate puzzle. One of the most compelling theories involves a known burglar operating in the area at the time. This individual had a history of breaking into homes and could have been responsible for the brutal crime. Proponents of this theory argue that the burglar, upon being discovered by Julia, panicked and killed her to avoid being identified. The lack of a clear motive for Wallace and the absence of concrete evidence tying him directly to the murder lend some credence to this possibility. Another theory suggests that the crime was orchestrated by someone Wallace knew, possibly a disgruntled colleague or a vengeful acquaintance. Wallace's work as an insurance agent brought him into contact with many people, some of whom may have held grudges or had financial disputes with him. Could it be that one of these individuals made the mysterious phone call, luring Wallace away from home to commit the crime? We also cannot ignore the possibility of a random act of violence. Liverpool in the early 1930s was not immune to crime, and Julia Wallace could have been an unfortunate victim of a senseless attack. This theory, however, struggles to explain the calculated nature of the phone call that provided Wallace with an alibi. Each of these theories has its proponents and detractors, and none have been definitively proven or disproven. What remains clear is that the murder of Julia Wallace is a case that defies easy answers. The complexity of the crime, the intricacies of the trial, and the subsequent reversal of Wallace's conviction all contribute to an enduring mystery that continues to captivate and confound. As we ponder these theories, we are reminded that the truth is often elusive, hidden behind layers of intrigue and speculation. The question of who really killed Julia Wallace may never be answered, but it is this very uncertainty that keeps the case alive in our collective consciousness. Stay with us as we move to our final chapter, where we explore the broader implications of this case and the lasting impact it has had on the world of criminal justice and beyond. As we approach the conclusion of this perplexing case, the enigma of Julia Wallace's murder continues to cast a long shadow. Decades have passed, and yet the questions remain as haunting as ever. Who was the mysterious R.M. Qualtrough? Was William Herbert Wallace truly guilty, or was he an unfortunate man caught in a web of circumstantial evidence and bizarre coincidences? Modern advancements in forensic science, such as DNA analysis and advanced crime scene reconstruction, might have illuminated aspects of the case that were shrouded in mystery back in 1931. Fingerprint technology, blood spatter analysis, and digital communication records could have provided crucial pieces to this intricate puzzle. But even with these tools at our disposal, the human element, the motive, the emotions, the relationships, remains elusive and challenging to decode. The case of Julia Wallace's murder isn't just a cold case. It's a reflection of the limitations and possibilities inherent in criminal investigations. It reminds us that sometimes, even with all the evidence laid out, the truth can remain just out of reach, obscured by time and human fallibility. As we delve into the annals of crime history, we are left to ponder. Was Wallace a cunning murderer who orchestrated an elaborate ruse to cover his tracks? Or was he a tragic figure, ensnared by a series of unfortunate events and a justice system that was quick to find a culprit? The lingering doubts and unanswered questions invite us to engage with the mystery ourselves. They challenge us to think critically, to question, and to never take things at face value. The murder of Julia Wallace remains an unsolved mystery, a testament to the complexities of human nature and the enduring quest for truth. Thank you for joining us on this journey through one of Britain's most baffling unsolved mysteries. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe for more intriguing content. Your support helps us continue to explore and share these fascinating stories.